Albert Einstein famously called compounding the eighth wonder of the world. Why? Because when you understand how it works and follow its laws, you can build wealth, knowledge, and success that snowballs far beyond your expectations. In this video, we'll break down the 5 laws of compounding. These are not just rules for money, but for life itself. Because compounding applies to finances, skills, relationships, health, and even personal growth. If you truly understand these 5 laws and apply them, you'll unlock the secret to turning small daily actions into extraordinary results. Law 1. The law of time. The first and most important law of compounding is time. Compounding works best not because you put in a huge amount of money at once, but because you give your money, or your efforts, time to grow. Think of compounding like a snowball rolling down a hill. At the very beginning, the snowball is small and seems like it's barely growing. But the longer it rolls, the more snow it gathers, and soon it's massive. Let's take an example. Imagine 2 friends, Sarah and James. Sarah starts investing at the age of 22 and puts in just $200 a month until she's 32, then stops completely. James waits until 32 to start investing, but then contributes $200 a month all the way until 62. Who do you think ends up with more? Surprisingly, Sarah wins, even though she invested for only 10 years compared to James's 30 years. Why? Because Sarah gave her money more time to compound. The early years are the most powerful, because each dollar earns interest, then that interest earns interest, and the cycle keeps building. Time is the secret ingredient that multiplies your efforts. Whether you're saving money, learning a skill, or building a career, starting early gives you an unbeatable advantage. The sooner you begin, the less effort you need in the long run. The law of time teaches us that procrastination is compounding's worst enemy, and early action is its greatest ally. Law 2. The law of consistency. Compounding doesn't work without fuel. That fuel is consistency. Imagine planting seeds in a garden. If you water them only once in a while, the plants will wither. But if you water them a little every single day, they grow strong. The same principle applies to compounding. It's not about how much you put in at once, but about steady contributions over time. This could mean consistently saving a portion of your income, consistently exercising for health, or consistently dedicating time to improving a skill. Many people underestimate the power of small, consistent actions because they don't see immediate results. But compounding is slow at the beginning and explosive later on. For example, if you save just $5 a day, an amount most people spend on coffee or snacks, you'd have around $1,800 at the end of the year. That doesn't sound like much, but if you keep doing this every day and invest it with a decent return, you're not just looking at thousands, but potentially hundreds of thousands over decades. Consistency is the bridge between small efforts and big results. The law of consistency reminds us that the secret to compounding isn't in big, flashy moves, but in the quiet discipline of repeating small actions day after day. Law 3. The law of reinvestment. This law is where the magic of compounding really happens. To benefit from compounding, you must reinvest your returns instead of taking them out. Interest earned should go back into the pot. Dividends from stocks should be reinvested. Profits from your business should be put back into growth. Even in personal growth, knowledge gained should be applied and practiced, not left unused. Think about a fruit tree. If you eat every seed it produces, you'll always be limited to that one tree. But if you take the seeds and plant them, suddenly you have an orchard. Each tree starts producing fruit of its own, and the cycle continues. That's reinvestment in action. Warren Buffett, one of the richest men in the world, attributes much of his fortune to the power of compounding through reinvestment. He didn't build his wealth overnight. It grew year after year because he reinvested earnings instead of spending them. The law of reinvestment is a reminder to avoid the temptation of short-term gratification. Every time you reinvest, you're fueling your compounding engine. If you constantly withdraw, you break the cycle and lose the exponential growth that makes compounding so powerful. Law 4, the law of rate of return. Now let's talk about speed. Time and consistency are crucial, but your rate of return determines how fast your compounding snowball grows. Even small differences in return percentages create massive gaps over time. Let's do some math. If you invest $10,000 at a 4% annual return for 30 years, you end up with about $32,000. But at 8% return, the same $10,000 grows to over $100,000. That's triple the result, with the same time and effort, just at a slightly higher rate of return. This law doesn't mean you should chase risky, get-rich-quick schemes to maximize returns. In fact, high risk without strategy can destroy compounding completely, because losses break the cycle. Instead, it teaches you to seek smart, sustainable growth. Educate yourself about investments. Minimize unnecessary fees and focus on building assets that deliver steady returns over time. The same applies to personal growth. If you spend your time learning skills with a higher return in life, like communication, problem-solving, or financial literacy, your compounding will work at a much higher speed compared to focusing on low-value habits. The law of rate of return shows us that not all growth is equal. Choosing wisely where to put your money, time, and energy determines how fast compounding works for you. Law 5, the law of patience. Finally, compounding demands patience. The truth is, compounding feels invisible in the beginning. You might save for months and see almost no change. You might work on a skill and barely notice improvement. You might invest and see only tiny gains. This is where most people give up. But compounding isn't linear. It's exponential. The biggest results always come later, after years of consistent effort. That's why patience is essential. If you interrupt compounding by withdrawing too early, quitting your efforts, or constantly switching strategies, you'll never see the real magic. Think of bamboo. For years, bamboo seeds remain underground, barely showing growth. But once they break through the soil, they can grow over 90 feet in just a few weeks. That's how compounding works. Nothing seems to happen at first, then suddenly the results are enormous. The law of patience teaches us to trust the process. Success doesn't happen overnight. But if you respect time, stay consistent, reinvest your gains, and focus on the right returns, patience will reward you with results far greater than you can imagine. Bringing it all together. The 5 laws of compounding: time, consistency, reinvestment, rate of return, and patience are not just about building financial wealth. They apply to every area of life. If you consistently exercise, your health compounds. If you consistently read and learn, your knowledge compounds. If you consistently invest in relationships, your trust and network compound. The beauty of compounding is that it doesn't require brilliance or huge resources. It only requires that you respect these laws and stick to them. The earlier you start, the more consistent you are, the more you reinvest, the smarter your returns, and the more patient you remain, the more unstoppable your growth becomes. So here's the challenge. Don't wait for tomorrow. Start applying the 5 laws of compounding today. Invest in yourself, in your money, and in your future. Remember, compounding doesn't shout. It whispers, it builds. And then, when the time is right, it explodes with results you never thought possible.